is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path.
A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verses 16 to 19 and 22 to 27. Brothers and sisters, if I preach the gospel, this is no reason for me to boast, for an obligation has been imposed on me, and woe to me if I do not preach it. If I do so willingly, I have a recompense. But if unwillingly, then I have been entrusted with a stewardship. What then is my recompense? That, when I preach, I offer the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my right in the gospel. Although I am free in regard to all, I have made myself a slave to all so as to win over as many as possible. I have become all things to all, to save at least some. All this I do for the sake of the gospel, so that I too may have a share in it. Do you not know that the runners in the stadium all run in the race, but only one wins the prize? Run so as to win. Every athlete exercises discipline in every way. They do it to win a perishable crown, but we an imperishable one. Thus I do not run aimlessly. I do not fight as if I were shadow boxing. No, I drive my body and train it, for fear that, after having preached to others, I myself should be disqualified. This is the word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 6, verses 39 to 42. Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. The Gospel of the Lord.
My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, my dear children, and my dear young generation, today, Friday, 9th of September 2022, we are in the 23rd week of Ordinary Time. The Gospel given to us is from Luke chapter 6, verses 39 to 42. Now, in this reading, we have four circumstances, so four situations from which we are trying to understand the content of the reading. The first one that comes from the previous lines of the same chapter: do not judge others, lest you will be judged equally. And that is a condition. The measure with which we measure, we will be measured with the same measure. Therefore, Jesus tells us today, the blind person cannot guide another one. When you are blind, both of them will fall into the same pit. Both of them will have the same danger. Then he goes to tell us the pupil will not be greater than the master. Once you are a pupil, you have to be the pupil. Once we master the exams, once we complete our process of formation, we can be equal to the master. But when we are pupils, when we are in the process of learning, we cannot equal ourselves to the master. Then he comes to another teaching. First one said, do not, a blind cannot lead any other in the right path. The second, the people must not be greater than. Third is now you have to understand yourself. You cannot correct others when you are wrong. You cannot condemn others when you have something to be condemned in your own life. When you have the so-called Jesus says in the gospel, do not criticize others and do not ask your brother, let me take your speck out of your eye when you have a log in your eye. So it is a manner and a matter of examining myself, ourselves, to gauge ourselves, to know ourselves, to know where we stand, my spirituality, my faith, and my charity, my way of life, before trying to dominate and to command others. Let us command ourselves